Boo! Overlay. Welcome back to the Combo Couch, everyone. Pasta Jardule is here.
Hi, and I'm Fiorella.
And what do we talk about your thing? It's too close to your head, fam. Everybody's got to see your nice hair. I mean, you go to hair and makeup now. You got to make it work. Mom, look who it is. It's fam. I'm good. I don't need those cookies there. Thank you.
Hi,
so much.
Merry Christmas.
Hi, Merry Christmas, fam. You look beautiful.
Don't
You
you?
look beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Don't listen. He's just teasing. He loves to tease, but you know that.
Yes, I do.
Happy New Year, honey. There,
Yes,
that's
Happy
fam.
New Year.
Thank you, though, Mom. Thank
Fam, you want a cookie?
I do, but it'll take a while to get
delicious.
here.
Yeah.
So cute and small and tasty, and they melt in your mouth.
Are you trying to sell me the cookie? Because it worked.
Next time, you're invited for cookies.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
great. Bye.
Love you, Mom.
Bye.
All right, so listen, we have no time for dilly-dallying. Fam has a short schedule. As you know, she's been in the studio 24/7 talking about, if you haven't been watching, a lot of the Twitter file stuff being covered on RT. Fam, they haven't been covering the Carrie Lake trial that got denied, but they had a great 2 days, and we will kind of talk about that if we can today. If not, I'm going to have a special pickup show tomorrow, but there's a lot of stuff to get into right now, fam. I don't know about you, but while this trial was going on, we had Nancy Pelosi running through the Capitol, the state Capitol, with a Slava Ukraine flag and actually signed with Nazi symbols on there, fam. So, yeah,
Did you put that in there, by the way?
No, I did not, but I will. I did put in Lindsey Graham in there.
Yeah,
I think
we
we
have
can
to put in
compare
this.
and contrast to what a politician like Claire Danes is saying in Ireland. To you got people like
Claire-
Lindsey Graham.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Not Claire Danes. That's the actress.
Yeah, I know. I just screwed that up. Claire. What's her... I think I even marked it wrong. Yeah, but
I know
the contrast between what she says on the floor of in Ireland's Parliament compared to what we have in Lindsey Graham going on in these news channels, what we got Juan, what's his name, the dude who goes on the Fox 5, literally saying nothing unites Americans like the Ukrainian situation. Like, this is just, it's complete disgusting the way our Congress is going about these things. And I am kind of glad that some of these Twitter files are in releasing this information. But fam, I'm very skeptical because I don't think they would just allow this information to be released unless there was an objective down the road.
Of course.
So let's just jump right into it right now because I think
first I have to make an announcement. I have to say happy birthday to my brother. Today's my brother's birthday. So it's happy birthday to Johnny. I know he's probably eating cake at some point today. What time is it? It's still early over there. It's
almost
noon.
1 o'clock over there. He's probably getting ready to do Kim's show, and they're getting ready to fire it on up. Kim's show is an amazing show. Johnny's engineering it over there. I got to say hi to him. He got to celebrate his holiday with people, so he wasn't alone. Unlike Fam, who's probably, celebrating it with the snow.
I was not alone either. But I do have to say I have a picture to show of Johnny. I put it in there, and I wanted to embarrass him because he probably won't see this unless somebody calls him out. But
it's in the doc.
Yeah, I put it in the doc.
I don't see it in there. Oh, I see it
not.
now.
Yeah.
All right.
Sometimes this shit doesn't update. It's so annoying.
I got it.
Yeah, there's a picture of little Johnny. There are worse pictures, but I was being nice, so I just put like a picture of Johnny.
You're so kind.
Yeah, I am. Thank you. I appreciate it. Johnny, New York, November 28th, 1998. There you go. There's little Johnny.
Is that a vacuum? What the fuck is that?
It is. It's a vacuum. He was trying to figure out where to put the wreath. He was trying to put it somewhere, and eventually he put it somewhere, but he couldn't reach anywhere because he was little. So
is it necessary
there you
to go happy birthday, Johnny Fail?
Yes, it absolutely
is.
That
information.
It absolutely is. So there you guys go. Shout out to Johnny. Happy birthday.
By the way, this guy, Mark Hill, just said there's no objective on the release of the Twitter files. That's why they are getting no MSN retraction. So I don't know what your thoughts are about that, but I'm going to jump right into what you have as far as these things, because I mean, you guys are doing decent amount of coverage of this on RT. A lot of people think that RT is doing a lot of coverage on this more than normal because it's somewhat kind of showing the proof of the Russian disinformation against them. And I get that, but I mean, why would they allow this information to just be released just so candidly, fam, and so easily? I mean, I don't understand that. And I know a lot of people who've been really critical of us who've said, oh my God, you guys need to shut up and stop hating and look at the information for what it is. So I'm going to let you just jump right into it because it's a little funny.
I don't even think that's the right, that's not the right one.
That's the first one. You want the other one?
No, it's number 20. It's number 20. You see how it's 20? Can you just scroll all the way up and then we'll go?
Number 20. What number do you want? You want number 1?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I want the whole thread. That's
got it.
Yeah.
There you go.
So okay, so this was released on Christmas Eve. And it's Twitter and other government agencies. So they talked about the FBI. And you can just continue scrolling. They talked about the FBI. They talked about the FBI being involved in moderation of this content. We sort of kind of touched a little bit on the first part of this last time. And of course, the FBI denied this, right? They said, no, I can't believe this is conspiracy. The FBI denying this, Joe, just kind of plays into the fact that it's no surprise they're going to deny this. They deny everything. Like whether it's the FBI, the CIA, oh, this is just blah, blah, blah. This is what they do. It's no surprise they deny that they're doing anything wrong. This is what they've always done, right? And fam, we're just going to keep scrolling through this because it's a lot. It said it decried conspiracy theories publishing misinformation whose sole aim is to discredit the agency. The FBI doing this, though, does give more credibility because it's like, well, they're denying it, so obviously there's something there. And that's one of the things that I think you do have to point out is like the FBI could have said, hey, yes, but this was done because we had to take over and look out for our national security. They didn't even say that. They flat out are denying very obvious facts and data that have come out that have put them in a position where it does make them look bad. But anybody that has done any sort of research on the FBI and on security agencies knows that they lie all the time, and they have been doing this for a long time. We know this as anti-imperialists because we look at the FBI's foreign entity in the CIA and the whole NSA in terms of big tech, and then of course in terms of the intervention in other countries via NATO and these NGOs. So it's not surprising to us, but again, it's just verifying what we've been saying. So again, the FBI has denied this. So if we just keep going down, let's see. Go to number 5 if you can. The operation is far bigger than the reported 80 members of the Foreign Influence Task Force, the FITF, which also facilitates requests from a wide array of smaller actors, from local cops to media to state governments. If you guys remember, there was a couple of DHS memos that went out saying that the Department of Homeland Security was going to have divisions like in social media, that they were going to have divisions elsewhere. This isn't surprising if you know about that, if you read about that. I don't know if you remember, fam, when they were saying like they were going to have little divisions where they were going to look at people's social media profiles. And the Department of Homeland Security issued this memo. So am I surprised that they were interfering on Twitter? Not at all, because this is part of what they do. This is part of what the apparatus does. This isn't surprising to me at all. Am I glad that there is more verification as to the things a lot of independent media has been saying and covering for years? Yeah, I am. But Pasta's right. Why exactly is this being allowed to be released right now? How is it being allowed? It's being allowed via specific people who are allowed to ask certain questions. via a Twitter lawyer that then comes back with certain documents they can take screenshots of. It's not allowed in a WikiLeaks free full spectrum type of format, which lends me to say this is controlled information. And when you have controlled information coming from the top, again, you have to always question that information. That doesn't mean I'm against the information coming out. I'm just telling you, ask why it's coming out now, ask why it's being released in the way it's being released, and what benefit down the road may this have for the people involved.
Somebody just put down, and guys, make sure, do me a favor. If you guys are watching on YouTube, check your settings right now. They love to move the settings to 420 and stuff, and you get blurry pasta and blurry fee. We want you to see us plain and clearly. So please make sure you check that if you're having any problems. We're also over on Rumble. We're over on Rockfin. If you are a premium subscriber, and if you aren't, we'd love you to sign up. Listen, it says right down below, fam, the FBI is the mafia for the oligarchy. Well, what FBI would allow you to release all this information, telling you everything about them, exposing their whole organization, and not respect any repercussions, any payback, any blowback from them? I mean, it just, to me, and I put on what Jilly Love put up there, it turns out, this is what Elon Musk said, turns out every conspiracy theory is true that they turned out, they laugh about it. Well, I don't care that he's Elon Musk and he's a billionaire. That doesn't buy him safety. And you're talking about a mass organization over here, the FBI, and they are a cartel. They are a mafia. They need to be disbarred. They need to be getting rid of. Same with the CIA. Nothing should be done outside the purview of the American people, no matter what, because once we allow a little bit to be done, then forget about it. But you're going to tell me that this guy is now going to expose everything that was out of our purview for a second, and he's going to start telling this stuff? I simply say, why doesn't he just release everything out in the open? But I mean,
well, he doesn't own. Do you really think he doesn't really own Twitter? He's not really in charge of Twitter. Has been clearly used as a tool for the empire, right? So it's like he's not in charge of it. He is just the simple face of it right now, and he's causing a lot of attention to Twitter. And a lot of people are talking about him. A lot of people are talking about Twitter. A lot of people are talking about this stuff. And one of the things we said here, and we discussed this, actually had Kim Iverson on the one time we discussed this, and we said, when the narrative that is no longer popular is the counter narrative, that means, bless you, you have to understand how the people in power are going to manipulate that. It's not popular anymore to just oppose the counter narrative, right? To oppose the anti-establishment folks with, oh, you're wrong and you're lying. That doesn't do anything. But it's wiser to co-opt the anti-establishment narrative and to try to get a hold on it rather than actually just oppose it, because you're not really making any leeway. It's the same reason why people like the Squad exist, because it's better to co-opt that any sort of anti-establishment movement that is seeking to get rid of the old order. It's better to co-opt it and make it part of the old order, just rebranding it, than actually oppose it head on. And so I think what we're seeing here is a co-option of the counter narratives, where you have to allow some sort of releasing of information via the Twitter files and via something like with what Elon Musk is doing, in order to have faith in the system. What does this do? This really gives people faith in the system, that there will be some justice, that people are going to come out and find themselves, oh my God, the FBI did this. But notice what's going to happen to the FBI, what's going to happen to the CIA, what's going to happen to Twitter. Is Twitter going to still change what they've been doing? It's not going to change what they've been doing, because at the end of the day, Twitter is owned by Elon Musk, which is, which it's really not. It's really has its embed with the national security state apparatus. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon, because it's part of the whole system. So in order for Twitter to be like what people want, like a publicly funded, free sort of, like just public square that belongs to the people, you would have to have a completely different system that would allow that. It's just not going to happen, I think. But anyway, we should. continue.
We'll move on. I do just want to say that, like, I think it is like to restore trust, to get people back into the whole, mechanism of sorts, or the whole system. But it's also this stuff is very, very tribal and divisive. You know what I'm saying? It is really putting people in more corners. It almost seems like it's just another step, right? Because this is not just about a platform where you go where there's a little blue birdie. This is speech. This is our press. This is everything. Well, I mean, you know what I'm saying, fam? It's not like it's like not like a video game. This is where actual politicians and lawmakers and the president of the United States at the point, I mean, I'm sure that they haven't given Joe Biden access to his Twitter. I'm almost 1,000% sure about that, but it almost seemed like the president of the United States, Donald Trump, was tweeting from his tweeter. So, I mean, this is so divisive. It puts people in quarters. It pits people against each other, because now they're going, oh, it's all conservatives, all conservatives. And the thing to me that's really starting to show, and what people have to pick up is, okay, let's say for sure we don't understand what's going on. If he's releasing this, what's going, whatever. It's not about left versus right. That's the trap here. It's about up versus down, because it's about issues. And for Elon to say that leftists didn't get censored, no. We all got censored when we wanted to talk about COVID protocols. We all got censored when we wanted to talk about elections. It wasn't about left or right. It was about up versus down. And that's a different narrative that's going on, and a different narrative. And it's a different message than what Elon is actually portraying. So just want to point
and even the way the information is being relayed, like, oh, these, like, well, I'll show it. Okay, so let's just scroll down a little bit and get towards some of the more gritty stuff. Let's see. Just keep scrolling. This one's pretty long.
And it's all stuff like, CIA stuff, Jim Baker, FBI stuff. The CIA.
Let me ask you, Sam, do you think the fact that Elon fired Jim Baker is as big of a deal as people are making it out to be?
No.
Because people are like, well, he fired Jim Baker, so that means that Elon's on the right side.
Whatever. I mean, the thing is, I don't think it is a firing as much as it was a mutual let's walk away, and take it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't believe Elon is doing this like as a just lone wolf. I believe this is all coordinated. I believe this is all done together. So, you know what I'm saying? It's just something, that Eli fired Jim Baker is equivalent to Zelensky's Jewish. Therefore, he can't.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? That's exactly what goes through my mind when I hear that. Yeah. If my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle, right?
What?
If my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle.
Okay, so we're getting closer to the part I wanted to get to. So they did talk about the election, fam, and I wanted to.
That's why I stopped right there, fam.
I wanted to ask you about your opinion on the election stuff, because to me it seemed like it was just very much glossed over regarding the election. Like, for example, when they talked about the Hunter Biden laptop scandal, that was just, they manipulated the story from getting out there. They censored the New York Post story. Our elections are manipulated then because of that. Nothing really going deep into the fact that Twitter was still doing that today, like recently via the midterms. And Elon jumped right on board with that, of censoring any information that didn't come from the, trusted sources like the AP and stuff. And that is in my opinion showing that it's really much just giving a little bit of like satisfaction to the right by saying, like they manipulated the Hunter Biden laptop scandal. But they're not really talking about the problems about the election. Like, none of that's being revealed, that, oh, by the way, these videos that were put up of, these ballots that were found, that was real. That these accounts that we're talking about chain of custody, or that we're talking about statistical analysis and pattern analysis, were banned and taken off because it undermined it didn't just undermine trust in the elections, it showed the faultiness and the manipulation and the outright fraud in the election system. And that can't be something that I think they can touch, because if they were to touch that, it would just destroy the whole system. Because if people really understand and you get a smoking gun that US elections are not real, if that were to be actually put out there, it would just destroy. You wouldn't even be able to have a partisan, Democrat versus Republican, because you would know that your elections are completely manipulated, like some of us have been saying for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they made a to-do about it so much, the Hunter Biden thing, because it doesn't make a difference if the Hunter Biden information was already out there. It was out there. I mean, Democrats are going to think the way they think. Republicans are going to think the way they think. They're going to vote along team lines. Would it have really persuaded the independents? Maybe would have persuaded more people. I don't know. I seriously doubt. I think that when you point to those things too as well, it gets away from the actual issues of elections, which we'll get into, and that's the actual system itself. So yeah, but that's beside the point. I'm glad they did mention a little bit about it, but what smoking gun could they give us? Can Twitter give us? You know what I'm saying? I think.
Well, it just wasn't specific enough.
Yeah. The thing about it is that's but see, then when they make that argument about like leftists and rightists and stuff like that, they suppressed any information. They suppressed us from talking about. When you're talking about the election stuff, I mean, this last election, I got censored. People weren't able to retweet it or like it or something. I think they were able to remember, and they put a thing there. And I was talking about election fraud, and they put up a whole thing directing people to voter fraud. So they don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. So it's anything election-wise. It's the actual independent journalists that they censored. Really, to tell you the truth, the thing about it is that everything that's coming to light now in every single area, whether it be COVID, whether it be elections, whether it be about foreign policy, fam, it always came from the smaller voices first, from the smaller channels first. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The mainstream media is too busy putting up their own propaganda. Their information is not vetted. They're told what to say. They all say it. They say it to get across different platforms with different ideologies. So people go, okay, look, it's true because it was said on Fox. And I'm a Democrat. You know what I'm saying? So, but it always came from smaller voices. And once again, he's highlighting all these big names that were taken down. Look at the names he put out there. Charlie Kirk, Dan Bongino. Well, what about all the small grassroots Republican reporters that were putting shit out there that was censored? He's not mentioning them. What about the small grassroots leftist-leaning outlets like the Convo Couch that were saying stuff before anybody else? Hey, on elections, Glenn Greenwald just did his thing on Brazil, fam, and it was really, really good. The only problem is, the one negative is when he got to elections, he really couldn't explain why it wasn't rigged. He was just saying, well, if you're not from here, you don't speak Portuguese, you don't have the right information. Really, if you don't have the proof, how can you say it's rigged, right? But he did point out and explain exquisitely why fucking Lula had such a high rating and why he's not a communist, and that is great. But it's the smaller outlets that go get this information and bring it back from some of the most important issues out there. So when they're silencing those voices, that's what we really need to hear about. It's the little guy. It's all these other accounts that were frozen. I'm glad that they censored. Right. I'm glad you told us that Charlie Kirk and Dan Bongino took it on the nose. But you got to open up the hood and let us see it all. We want to see the little guys who got censored, the everyday citizen journalists that got censored, because that's just as important, if not more important, fam.
No, I mean, I agree. I mean, it's very selectively on those voices because that's what riles up the people who are on that side, Charlie Kirk on the right, etc. Can we go to number 30, fam? If you can scroll down to number 30, I want to see your reaction to this one. So he writes, it seemed to strike no one as strange that a foreign influence task force was forwarding thousands of mostly domestic reports along with the DHS, there's a DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, about the fringiest material. First of all, that word, I'll get back to that word, but that's what he was talking about. He was talking about the election. So you can see that, right? The hammer and scorecard, another U.S. presidential, Biden using scorecard, and this is from the American Report. Biden using scorecard and the hammer to steal another U.S. presidential election, just like Obama and Biden did in 2012, the American Report by Mary Fanning and Alan Jones, October 31st, 2020. Okay, it says the Obama administration commandeered a powerful supercomputer system known as a Hammer. The Hammer includes an exploit application known as a Scorecard that is capable of hacking into elections and stealing the vote, according to the CIA contractor turned whistleblower Dennis Montgomery. Okay, so then the second part of that, did you want to say something first real quick?
Fam, I'm getting really fucking pissed off right now.
I know. That's why I wanted.
This is like, okay, we can break this all down and see. This is why I don't believe. That's why I believe he's full of shit. And I hope Robin's here to fucking listen to this shit and stuff. Like Hammer and Scorecard, right? Okay, this is the way they twist shit. It's like, the whole taking of this election thing and where they're trying to move it, fam. Oh, it's Russian shit, like it's dictatorship, it's communism, it's socialism, it's the Chinese, it's just fucking mind-blowing. But let's get to the second part before we unpack it, before I just get all pissed off. Number 31, right?
Right. So, quote, foreign meddling had been the ostensible justification for expanded moderation since platforms like Twitter were dragged to the Hill by the Senate in 2017. And he shows the New York Times report where tech executives are contrite about election meddling, but make few promises on Capitol Hill. Yet, based on the scenes, Twitter executives struggled against government claims of foreign interference supposedly occurring on their platform and others. The Twitter file shows execs under constant pressure to validate theories of foreign influence and unable to find evidence for key assertions. They found no links to Russia, blah, blah, blah. So what they're doing here, what this is showing is, they use crazy allegations about Hammer and Scorecard and about, the Obama rigging the elections. It's like, okay, they showed all this crazy stuff in order to say that Russia and foreign entities were meddling in elections, which did happen. I mean, 2016, you have Russiagate, where the liberals said, oh my God, Trump is using Vladimir Putin to undermine the elections against Hillary Clinton. And before they went to Trump, they went to Bernie Sanders and accused him of using Russians and Russian troll farms to get votes away from Hillary to Bernie. And they literally justified this by saying memes were the ones that were influencing young people to vote for Bernie over Hillary Clinton. And one of the memes was like a Jesus on a unicorn meme. I mean, it was ridiculous stuff that wasn't valid. And we know obviously Russiagate wasn't anything. And we spent years discussing this. But the point was that that's not reality. The reality isn't that Russians were manipulating the elections. The reality is that the Americans, both the Democratic and Republican parties, depending on what's beneficial to them, manipulate elections.
Yeah.
Okay. And that is not being talked about because they're, again, as Pasta mentioned earlier, hyper partisan BS right here. With the reality that, yes, the liberals try to, always pin this on Russians, and the right always try to say this is the Chinese. But at the end of the day, they're not talking about the actual issues with the election. They're not actually explaining what is Hammer and Scorecard. Like, what is that? Where did that come from? Like, it's more of like in a mocking way to say, oh, look, they're saying, Russian troll farms did this. Yes, that's wrong. They're dumb. But like the reality is that our elections are being interfered with, guys, and they have been for a very long time.
Yeah, and great comment. We'll get to that soon as we move along in the Twitter files. But yeah, fam, I mean, it's just I don't know where to begin and where to end. I mean, we can go back to talk about where these things came from. It came from inside the house. I make this joke all the time, Raji Rob coined the phrase. Well, I didn't coin the phrase, but he said it. I've been repeating it. Our enemy is within arm's length, and there's this old movie you wouldn't remember. It was before my time, but I seen it with my parents, and it was called When a Stranger Calls. And the girl calls the cops, and she goes, what's going on? She goes, somebody's trying to threaten me, and they just called, and they're like, we just traced the call. The call is coming from inside the house, right? And that's where our enemy is. I saw Clinton Curtis in Orlando, fam. I got to see him in West Palm Beach. He always sends his love to you and Johnny, his beautiful assistant. I believe is his wife that we know of. I'm sorry, that runs his law office right around the corner from where the folks live. he was really approached way back in the days, and he was approached not by the Russians, not by the Chinese, but by Americans to make a flipping device. And the whole thing about it is when people say, oh, Obama was doing it and whatnot, there's proof that Obama wasn't doing anything with the flipping, that it was Anons doing the flipping. Because once they had an air portal to get in there, everybody with a computer can now start going in there and start messing around with shit with our elections, because they are connected to the internet. We check all the time, and they always are. They weren't in Brazil, but they were in America. You know, we like to point the finger everywhere. But yeah, I mean, these things have been happening for quite some time. Both parties have their other foreign entity they want to blame, whether it be the Democrats blame the Russians, the Republicans blame the Chinese. But it's both parties that are gaming the system and stuff. So it's not like we are also seeing, like, it would be interesting if they were laying this stuff out. If Elon was going to do this right, you know, he should have contacted us, and we would have shown, okay, well, you have to show the information they are suppressing that's really important. And I'll show you a Democrat who puts it up and a Republican who puts it up, because anything that a Republican put up, fam, since 2020 has already been out and talked about by a lot of progressives in the election integrity arena. So it's really, once again, it's not burst left and right. And that's what he's trying to do right here. He's trying to say, this is where it's coming from. This is what they tried to do. They try to say it was Russian disinformation. That's the Democrats. That's the Democrats. You know what I'm saying? And that's who we have to blame it on. It's team sports again.
Yeah. And it's just funny that they had the picture of Biden next to Stalin. Like, it's just that whole mentality. But it's not, so just to clarify, the way this is allegedly being done, Elon Musk contacted certain people, right? But the way this is being done, these journalists get access to Twitter, and they get to ask questions via a Twitter lawyer that finds these documents, they're like the questions that verify or answer the questions they're trying to ask. And then he comes back and gives them access to these documents that they're looking for. And then the journalists put this out. So this isn't like Elon Musk handpicking this information. I just want to clarify that. This is like the journalists who have these questions, and then they're asking. I mean, this is allegedly how it's being done. Okay. But what Elon Musk is doing, and is picking who this information is given to, obviously, in the process that this is being done, it's clearly being done with the protection of Twitter, right? Because you're not going to have lawyers of Twitter like giving you this information to shoot themselves in the foot. So whatever is being released is not going to hurt Twitter, in essence. Yeah. And if Twitter was aiding in this via allowing the government to function in the way it did, then Twitter is culpable. I mean, and its employees and executives are culpable. They're not going to get anything more than, you know, they no longer work there. But this is, I mean, again, how can you ever trust that Elon coming in is just going to change all of that? It's just naive at best. So this is number 37. In another case, Roth concludes a series of Venezuelan pro-Maduro accounts are unrelated to Russia's Internet Research Agency because they're too high volume. Can you click on the thing? Let me see here. Yeah, so people can see. Let me go ahead and read it. It says, thanks for reaching out. A couple of things from a quick review of this data. A few of the accounts whose tweets appear in your list are not IRA/Russia linked. In February of 2019, we re-released an IRA linked data sets, excluding a number of accounts that were operated out of Venezuela. Those accounts were extremely high volume tweeters, generally using automation in a way that was pretty uncharacteristic of a lot of other IRA activity. We have very high confidence that they are not linked to the IRA or the Russian activity in any form. The current official data sets you can download from us do not include these accounts in the RU archive. Instead, they include them in a January 2019 release of Venezuelan activity titled Venezuela January 2019, set to 764 accounts, blah, blah, blah. So they were pretty much taking accounts that were in any way, you know, Maduro, oh, that's Russia. That's Russian linked. Venezuela, that's Russian linked. In 2019, of course, we're talking about the Venezuelan coup attempts and those attempts that were happening at that time. This is true in terms of the Venezuelan accounts being targeted, because I remember some of our friends who said that when they were working at Telesur, when they were working and tweeting about Maduro and the coup attempts that were happening, with Juan Guaido, that they were getting completely suppressed and their Twitters were completely shadow banned. And it wasn't, and they weren't labeled, Russia state affiliated media. It just like their tweets were shadow banned, and they showed me like, look, I put a video and nobody sees it. And I have, thousands and thousands of followers. Like, how is this a possibility? So it's the same thing that was happening on that regard. And so they were putting Venezuelans in line with the Russians. And you can see here, the Venezuelans were extremely high volume tweeters, pretty uncharacteristic of a lot of other IRA activity. So because they were high volume tweeters, that they were trying to say that these were part of troll farms. Again, I point out to the fact that right now, at this very moment, you have NAFO, you have all these Ukrainian troll bot farms, which has been also proven, and they're still on Twitter. None of that is really being talked about. Will that be talked about? Maybe, I don't know. We can only hope that will be talked about, but that is, again, part of the whole State Department narrative as well. Do you have anything to say about that before?
I was going to do a Trump imitation. I'm just saying this. I was saying about Trump and trying to whack Maduro, and everybody's talking about he's the peaceful president and stuff. It's we don't have in the folder today with the whole, migrants being dropped off and taken over to
Kamala
Kamala's house and whatnot, and it's like, and I get like the whole thought process behind it and what they're trying to do, but it's still, once again, it's like the term "Make America Great Again." There's no responsibility, there's no accountability in that saying. Well, there's no responsibility, there's no accountability in what Abbott was doing with Kamala Harris, because Republicans are just as guilty for the flow of migration because they are all in on it when it comes to foreign policy. I mean, Donald Trump tried to whack fucking Nicolas Maduro over here. So while everybody was screaming about, Twitter was censoring, they were a bunch of shit libs and whatnot, well, this censoring wouldn't have made a difference to the America First crowd either. They would have been happy and okay with Maduro getting censored because they would have called him an evil dictator and whatnot. And, they say, because we're the party, a law and order fam. And by the way, China.
And I just want to kind of go over that. So the whole point of the last few tweets was to show that they couldn't find anything in these accounts that were related to Russia. So they pretty much said, well, if maybe we can brainstorm and find a stronger connection. Okay. They didn't find any links, so they wanted to brainstorm and find a stronger connection. And they used the specter, of course, of communism via Maduro and Venezuela to try to find a connection to Russia. And this obviously continues to happen. So let me see here. I'm trying to get to the...
This is right here. Another one saying, due to a lack of technical evidence on our end, I've generally let it be. Waiting for more evidence, he says. Our window on that is closing, given that the government partners are becoming more aggressive on attribution. And this is something to do with BRICS, I see over here too, fam.
Okay, so 45, 46, and 47.
Okay, my bad. You want to skip over this? All right.
Well, did you have something to say about that? It's just,
no. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so many people wonder if internet platforms receive direction from intelligence agencies about moderation of foreign policy news stories. It appears Twitter did in some cases by the way of the FITF and the FBI. These reports are far more factually controversial than domestic counterparts. And then we got 47. One of the reports lists accounts tied to Ukraine neo-Nazi propaganda. This includes assertions that Joe Biden helped orchestrate a coup in 2014 and put his son on the board of Burisma. So he's quoting this, okay? Guys, this is a fact. It is a fact that Joe Biden, Victoria Nuland, Democrats and Republicans both helped orchestrate a coup in 2014. That is a fact, undisputable. We don't need to quote it. It's a fact. It's a fact. That happened. That happened. That was called... Huh?
Fuck the EU.
That was the
That's what she said, right?
You have I know. You have audio, you have her at the scene of the crime. You have her literally handing out cookies, like Pasta
with
always
Jeffrey
points to.
Pyatt, on the Maidan.
With Jeffrey Pyatt, and you have the evidence that this happened. There's no like, oh no, that happened. Now, there's no like, they're not pointing to that. The Twitter files isn't confirming that. It's even quoting it. It's saying, oh, these were the allegations. Those are facts. So right away, I'm just like, okay, well, okay, I'm glad you're pointing this out, but this actually happened. So what this is talking about is that there were accounts that were signaled out as being Ukraine neo-Nazi propaganda, meaning propaganda is saying that Ukraine had neo-Nazis facets in it, which is also a fact. Right? It's a fact that Ukraine has the Azov Battalion, the C-14, other fascist neo-Nazi elements in its army, and they are very proud of it. And prior to 2022, to February of 2022, you could find many articles on The Guardian, The New York Times, The Washington Post talking about the problem that fascism in Ukraine, literally talking about it all the time. And there's that constant picture that, a lot of us have been posting. So I believe this is from February, where this whole file came from. And it says, suspected Russian troll farms, Ukraine propaganda. And you can see here, you guys see the picture of the Azov on the right. And it says, monitoring indicates that a suspected Russian troll farm is propaganda disinformation on Twitter about U.S. and Ukrainian government to support Russian actions in Ukraine. So they're claiming that all of these accounts were just Russian propaganda troll farms. And they put out this graph, mentions of Ukraine in English, Spanish, Russian, and Ukrainian between 18th to 24th of February 2022. This was before, by the way, this was before I ever worked for RT. This is before this is right around the time this conflict was about to begin. And it says, spike in mentions of Ukraine observed on February 24th, of 2022. Okay. And then it says 999 Twitter profiles linked to suspected Russian troll farm. Over 16,000 tweets mentioning Ukraine in the last 7 days. Top influencer has been mentioned in 3.9 thousand tweets, roughly 24% of all tweets mentioning Ukraine. Profile created on November 28th, 2011, over 11 years old. Profile location is listed as Belarus. Backup profile. I mean, it just has all of this. Prevailing narrative emphasizes similarity between current Ukrainian government and Nazis during World War II, attributes Nazification to U.S. government. See example of content. And we can scroll to the right in a second. Over 91% of all content gathered is in English, which may indicate that Western audiences are primary target audience. Spike in Twitter activity on the 24th of February, synchronized with Russian military advancement in Ukraine. They literally think all these Twitter accounts, and you'll see some of the names, are working with Putin, though they asserted that this was the case, and this is why these accounts had to be singled out. And
it's
on the
so
right,
full of shit right now. I mean, it's so full of shit, and there's nobody in their right mind that would believe that when they were telling me all these accounts are linked to fucking. All you have to do is go on to somebody's account and look at them. I'm like, okay, yeah, because they have an anti-imperialist opinion, you're gonna say they're linked to Putin. I mean, this is so fucking ridiculous that anybody would fucking buy that over there. Like, no shit, they were censoring people.
So let's go ahead and read some of the things that were said that they were sampling, right? A sample of content and images being propagated. The denazification of the Donbass and all Ukraine is underway. Fact. Ukraine is a festering sore crawling with ultra-violent neo-Nazis, brutally low-brow political class, and infested with utterly corrupt oligarchs. Fact. Ukraine stopped being a democracy the moment the U.S. interfered, but for a long time, it was literally one of the places that had the most sexual trafficking, the most crime, the most corruption. That is those. You can go back and look at that, and of course, you'll have to go back to articles prior to the SBU SMU special military operation. Both Washington and Kiev are reversing everything happening in the Donbass. They are blatantly lying. Also true. It's Kiev that's provoking Russia by attacking the people of Donetsk and Lugansk since 2014. Yeah, Russia is doing no such thing. Biden backs up Zelensky's lies constantly. I mean, since 1953, the CIA operated two major programs intent on not only destabilizing Ukraine, but Nazifying it with followers of World War II Ukrainian Nazi leader Stefan Bandera. These are all things that were being pointed out as propaganda. This is your government going on Twitter saying that people saying facts about what actually happened are Russian troll farms and conspiracy theorists, or they're getting information from the Russian government with zero. If I have to assert, bless you, if I assert that pasta is working with the CIA, I need some sort of proof, right? I can't just say, hey, you're working with and colluding with the CIA. They literally just blatantly said that these accounts were all probably working in it because it fell in line with Russia coming into Ukraine and blah, blah, blah. I mean, this is just on the basis of what it is. We knew that this was happening, but just on the basis of what actually the government is doing. Do you believe your government, one, is going to stop out of the kindness of their heart? No. And that this information being released isn't going to be manipulated in some way. And the fact that it was released isn't already, does it make you question why, like, they're releasing certain aspects of this information when it's clearly showing distrust in the government? And the only way I can think about how that's going to be rescued and justified is, well, this was the Democrats doing it. So once the Republicans take over, things will be different. And that's where I think we're going here. This is why this is super hyper partisan. I'm not, what's being revealed is obviously true. I experienced it. A lot of us have experienced it when we were talking about a plethora of topics like COVID, like elections, like we still continue to do. Any anti-imperialist, anti-regime change information. Then, of course, Russia, Ukraine being one of the biggest ones after COVID, where saying any of this, of course, landed you the call of being a Russian asset or whatever. People just calling everybody a Russian asset. I mean, I get called a Russian asset like 10, 20 times before breakfast. So here are the most mentioned Twitter profiles. And let's go through some of the names that are put there. Let me see. And this is from February. Okay. This is before I worked for RT. I'm pointing that out for a reason, because I'm getting told like I'm working for, I'm doing propaganda. This is before any of that. So here it is. Boolean string used for search. Okay. And they searched Estados Unidos, in Spanish, the United States, Nazi or neo-Nazi. They searched Biden, Zelensky, blah, blah, blah. They used all that. Most mentioned Twitter profiles: Kremlin, Russia, E, Tim N 2037, Alex Klein 0, Leduc de la Tour, Joe Biden, Rachel Blevins, my coworker, May Russia, Kyle Kalinske, UN, Ma 301111, Onu ES, Sarah Aru, Sarah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Aaron Mate, Anya Parampel, Benjamin Norton, Nicholas Maduro, Brian Berlatek, who still hasn't gotten his account back, I believe. And me, Fiorella _IM. That was before I changed my username. And I changed my username because I wanted to get verified on Twitter, because these idiots were trying to take me down, and I wanted to change it to my full name. So that's why I did that. And then most mentioned Twitter hashtag Azov Battalion, Russia, Biden, Nazi, Ukraine, CIA, NATO, Western, Ukraine, Confidential, Macron, Putin, Free Alex Saab, Donbass, Kiev, Schultz, Right Wing, Enterit, US, NATO. So yes, clearly our accounts were targeted. And those aren't the only accounts that were even talking about this stuff. I mean, you got people like Eva Bartlett that's been talking about Ukraine, been going to the Donbass for years now. You got so many people that have been just censored and taken down. Scott Ritter still doesn't have his account back, by the way. Another thing I want to point out, a Palestinian journalist, and we talked about this at RT, a Palestinian journalist's profile was taken down the moment he specified what 2 Israeli soldiers were doing in relation to the death of a Palestinian man that was in custody and then later died. So he talked about that and his account was taken down. When Elon Musk says no left voices are taken down, and a bunch of Palestinians are like, hey, wait a minute, what about us? We are constantly censored. And it is a fact. I talk about this all the time because I see it happening all the time. What about those people? And what about the fact that, yes, you're pointing out to some accounts being pointed out? Now these accounts, let's say, for example, Rachel and I, we have Russia state-affiliated media on our Twitter profiles. We are shadow banned as all hell. Anything we put out just does not get seen the way it used to be. You can compare the moment I got that label from before to my reach to the moment after. It is ridiculous. That's not being discussed. He's been asked by multiple people, you can't even translate my tweets anymore because it's like determined to be part of like I don't know, some Russian whatever, and it's insane. That's not being addressed. So we're just addressing the attacks on the right, but what about the state affiliated media? You don't have to like China state affiliated media, but it's also under attack. Iranian state affiliated media, same thing. Press TV, all of these accounts, CGTN, they're also being attacked. Why is this not being discussed here? And that is my issue with this whole situation. Why? Well, maybe because they can only discuss certain things that aren't going to undermine the people that have for a long time funded Elon Musk and have been the way he gets his money, guys. He got most of his money from the defense industry and the State Department. The defense industry is making a literal killing off of this war. So there's going to be a limit to that aspect.
Yeah, I like this part too as well. This next one, fam. Did you want to read this one? Another report asserts a list of accounts accusing the Biden administration of corruption in vaccine distribution are part of a Russian influence campaign. So anytime anything they don't like, they say that's Russian disinformation. I mean, literally every single time that I see Hillary Clinton say it, it just makes me laugh. It's like, oh my God. And that's where we're at. So.
Yeah. And so, I mean, just to kind of like reiterate this, right? Often intelligence came in the form of brief reports followed by a long list of accounts simply deemed to be pro-Maduro, pro-Cuba, pro-Russia. This one batch had over 1,000 accounts marked for digital execution. Remember, I also got my account taken down at some point recent to that. When did we go to Honduras? It was January.
Yeah.
It was January. Yeah. Like so right ago. Right before this situation happened, I got my account taken down, if you guys recall. And the reason they came up to my account being taken down was spam. They said that I was marked as part of spam. But during that time, I had been tweeting a lot about the elections and how the U.S. State Department couped Manuel Zelaya in 2009 via Hillary Clinton, blah, blah, et cetera. You're right. And it was just, there was so much going on Twitter at that time. I knew from that moment that they were watching my account because it was like, it was bullshit. I wasn't spam. You could look at my account and know that I wasn't, you can tell I'm not spam. So these are the mechanisms that they used to try to mark these accounts for execution. And so they have these lists of accounts where they're like, oh, we're going to get rid of this account or this account. We can try to get rid of this one. They can't get rid of it unless they find a way to finagle a reason to get rid of them. So this is what they do. We've known that they've been doing this. I'm glad it's being revealed and highlighted. So people know that we're not crazy. But again, a lot of us have been saying this is what Twitter is for. Essentially, it's a data mining, kind of experiment where they figure out who you are. And I mean, shit, if you want to talk about pro Maduro, pro Cuba, pro Russia, I mean, I'm done. Like, I mean, it's just, I mean, this is just, I mean, who cares what a person is? They shouldn't be taken down. And again, that's proof to Elon that they're going after the left, because if you're pro Cuba, pro Maduro, you're clearly on the left. So that whole notion is bullshit. And then also, obviously, yes, they were going after the right and the pro, Trump accounts, the MAGA people, anybody talking about January 6th in a way they didn't like, by the way, that was also a target. Like all the COVID stuff. I mean, yeah. And so the COVID stuff is the other thing, fam, if we want to segue into that.
You want more of the Twitter file stuff there? Okay.
No, I mean like the COVID section. It's like a different batch. Did you want to segue into that? Did you have anything else?
I did have two. I mean, I think well, first off, the reason why I put these next two clips up there, because I know the Twitter files and what we were talking about here, I think a lot had to do, because that last part about it talking about any time that they would put out information about any human rights abuses against Ukrainians, they would label it as Russian disinformation to censor it, right? And then we understand how like Twitter worked along with the State Department or the military-industrial complex to keep anything out, anything from a Russian perspective out of the public. I mean, that even was okay leading into the public was okay with RT being taken down off DirecTV, being taken down off YouTube. So I did have this other clips real quick of Claire. Do you want to go right into the COVID stuff, or you want to stay a little bit more with the Ukraine stuff? Because I have these two clips because, I mean, whether you obviously now with Elon coming forth and him saying all this information and showing you all these Twitter files, there's supposed to be some change in direction now. Oh my God, wow, what's going on? Now we have a guy who's being altruistic. He's showing us everything. He's now exposing them for what it is. But I think there was no secret that Twitter was definitely working with somebody within our own government at the time during this whole Russian situation, since the military actions, to make sure that information across the board, coming from the Evas, coming from the Vanessas, coming from all those guys over there, even Gonzalo Lira, who's been on the show, anybody who went there, Wyatt, to make sure that they were censored and they were shut down. And everybody went along with it. So I wanted to show an example of what we see here in Claire versus some of our own politicians when it came to the Ukraine
Claire Daly,
Claire Daly. So I just like to show everybody on the floor, first off, what we want, what we'd hope to see. And I'm sure she got censored too, fam, along the line.
Yeah, and before you show her, I just want to preface this by saying Claire Daly has spoken out against Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Those words exactly. She's been, I've disagreed with her on that. I've disagreed with her on that. She's spoken out. She's condemned it. She did the whole thing. Still gets trolled and painted as a Putin bot by her own colleagues, by literally everybody in EU and NATO. And she has literally said it. So it doesn't matter. Again, I go back to this. It doesn't matter if you play their stupid game and virtue signal about condemning, and saying Russia shouldn't have done this and that. They are still going to call you a Putin shill. So
Billions of EU assistance going to Ukraine are not free. They're loans, which Ukraine will default on. And they come with neoliberal strings attached. If you listen to the economists, Ukraine is marked for a nightmare round of shock therapy, a sell-off of public land, deregulation of labour, sale of public assets. On it goes. The country's future is being sold to finance a proxy war that's tearing it apart. And of course, the loans have preconditions that Ukraine must uphold democracy and rule of law. But since the tap was turned on, Zelensky has banned most opposition parties, shuttered the media, attacked trade unions and workers' rights. But the billions keep flowing. This is a country, our Court of Auditors have said, was a country accused of grand corruption. And on it goes while the EU policy seems designed to prevent peace and keep the war going at all costs as long as ordinary people pay. So between Russian tanks and European banks, there'll be little left of Ukraine when this is over. Don't forget, war is a racket and there's going to be hell to pay for this one. Or going at all costs as long as ordinary people pay. So between Russian tanks and European banks, there'll be little left of Ukraine when this is over. Don't forget, war is a racket and there's going to be hell to pay for this one.
Fam, I love it when she says between Russian tanks and European banks, there'll be hell to pay for this one. But, I mean, this is the information that was suppressed. These are the people who were demonetized. These are the people who were shut out. You know what I'm saying? All in the name of Russian information. And like you said, fam, I thought it was so relevant to bring it to the Twitter files because even if you go out there and you say, hey, Russia's invasion was not justified either, they're going to still smear you as a Putin puppet. They're going to still silence you.
Yeah.
They're going to still shut you out. And many accounts like this were silenced and shut out. So it's crazy. I remember when we started, I don't think there was as much suppression going on. We had such a small following then, you know what I'm saying, when we first got the ball rolling. But holy cow. I mean, did they really, as soon as you got a little following, did they turn it on? We've been getting our YouTube shut down since the debates, right?
Yeah, like 2020.
Yeah, like in 2019, I think we started getting shut down, right? Strikes.
Full on, I think. Full on
2019.
2020. Yeah. I added this picture before you went to Lindsey because I think it's important to lead up to the fact that Vladimir Zelensky went to Washington. Now, he went to Washington via a private plane, and we don't know where he came from. He supposedly came from Ukraine, but I don't believe Zelensky's in Ukraine, as Vanessa Beeley pointed out in one of her posts. It's cute that people think that Zelensky, or no, it wasn't Vanessa, it was Marwa Usman, who pointed out that, it's cute that people think Zelensky is in Ukraine when he's probably in his villa in Florida, with his green screen, because they do have a house in Florida. This isn't, like they do. So I posted this. I said the EU and the UK are doing the same thing to follow the US's lead. Winter won't be fun. And we know winter has not been fun for much of the US. So why are citizens allowing this to happen? So they welcomed Zelensky, and you had Nancy Pelosi running around yelling Slava Ukraini, literally, glory to Ukraine, which comes directly from Stefan Bandera. And then you have them, they had this whole flag. And by the way, somebody pointed out in that flag, you probably can't see it on this one. Yeah, there was like a Nazi symbol.
Yeah.
The SS. Yeah. It's just freaking clown world every day, guys.
Damn, these are the good Nazis. Come on.
And he's Jewish, so it's okay. So, so somebody put this meme up, and it said U.S. taxpayer dollars are being laundered through Lockheed, Raytheon, Northrop, and Boeing, while homeless Americans freeze to death this Christmas weekend. I don't know if you guys have seen the videos, but there was a gigantic blizzard, okay, that took up much of the Midwest and the Northeast of the United States. Unprecedented. It was colder in Chicago than it was in Moscow. It was 36 degrees in Florida and 35
Dude, it's
degrees
here right now. I have to go put my sweatshirt on, fam. I keep sneezing. It's freezing here.
It was the same temperature in Moscow as it was in Orlando, effectively. I was like flabbergasted. I'm like, what is going on? Lord Putin just really did it again. And I said Lord Putin because they blame Putin for everything. So I figured I might as well get ahead of them. And this is important because Claire pointed this out, right? This is a U.S. proxy war to profit off of this. The defense industry, these companies have made so much money off of this war, so much money, and they continue to make money because it's not about winning the war. It's about the fact that the war just continues. Yeah. Because
they don't care who wins the war. They don't care who loses the war. All they care is that they have a war because the profits that are to be made. So,
yeah. And I mean, there it is. I mean, so,
and by the way, somebody put down Spoonful, fam. There was a group of Azov dudes at the January 6th insurrection. I didn't see them. I would believe that, but I know they were in Hong Kong too as well. They were posting about it and bragging about it as they were in Hong Kong helping for the protest. So, yeah, kind of crazy. Fam, while we're talking about Ukraine, and I don't know if you guys saw, I didn't put it in there the other day too as well. I think Max was around DC and he caught Joe Manchin. Hey, you got to put all this money into Ukraine? And he's like, I'm going to put more money into it. And there's almost 1 million homeless people and whatever. But, imagine if a Russian politician, fam, went on Russian media and said, the war ends when we get rid of the U.S. president. The collective West would probably shit their brains and would frame that as a threat to a global leader. Yet Lindsey Graham.
Who posted that?
This is support Palestine. And
I posted that. And they copied it as if they posted it. That's funny.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, somebody's copying your shit. I didn't even know you posted that.
Yeah. That's hilarious. I actually posted that. I was like, that sounds familiar. No idea. They copied my tweet though.
Really?
That's funny. Yeah, I posted that. I'll find it for you.
I didn't
it's
know.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm gonna play him right now while you look for it. Fam, we got to pour it all when it comes to Ukraine.
That's funny.
When Russia breaks, somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. How does this war end? When Russia breaks and they take Putin out, anything short of that, the war is going to continue. To ask the Ukrainians to give Russia part of their country after all this death and destruction is not going to happen. To signal a ceasefire, Russia will take the opportunity to rearm and come at them again. So we're in it to win it. And the only way you're going to win it is to break the Russian military and have somebody in Russia take Putin out to give the Russian people a new lease on life. Somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. How does this war end?
Somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. And fam, your thoughts on that? You're still looking, right?
Oh, I put it. I found it here. I'll put it on there so people can see. What I said in that tweet. If Russia did that, let's say Dmitry Polyansky went on, on RT and said, "Hey, the only way this ends is if we take out President Joe Biden." How do you think the collective West would react? How do you think they would all in the collective West, NATO, right? The EU, the UK, all of these people, they would get together and be like, "Oh my gosh, we must condemn Russia's call to threaten a global leader. We must seek justice. We can't believe this terrorist state of Russia is doing this." This is the second time, I think, at least, Lindsey Graham has done this. It's not the first time. And of course, he's not the only one, right? This is Lindsey Graham on the Republican end. We've heard, Adam Schiff. We've heard similar words from a lot of the Democrats. So again, it's that's a whole part of it. What is that?
That's the thing you talked about. I wanted to put it there. It's so cute.
Oh, that's Marwa's. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was funny. It's so cute that people think Zelensky flew in there. Yeah. I'm in Kiev. Trust me, bro. I mean, really. I mean, it's hilarious. Did you know they made shirts? They made shirts of him in a green screen. Somebody posted it somewhere where you could get one of his shirts that has Zelensky on a green screen.
That's crazy.
He's an actor and he's playing his role. He should, fam, he deserved that Oscar. He really did. He's very committed to his role. You have to give him that. He's doing method acting at its finest.
Fam, when he goes, Sean, no, Sean, no, Sean, no, Sean, no. And Sean starts taking out the Oscar.
Down to the cocaine addiction. I mean, he's just committed.
I heard there was a Mint Press article about something that was really good.
So I posted the thing so you guys could see I'm not lying.
It's here? All right.
Yeah, it's
where'd you put it?
Underneath.
Oh, I see it. I couldn't find it. Now I see it. My bad. I gotcha. It says the tweet is from a suspended account.
Yeah, so it was the Lindsey video, and I guess the account that posted it got suspended.
Damn.
But that's what I was quote tweeting. Yeah, which
that's
again,
why I didn't fetch it.
why did that account get suspended? And you can see like the date is way sooner than the other person. I mean, I'm flattered that you think that you're just gonna copy my shit. It's just funny. I just think it's hilarious. That it's like, anyway. But that's my whole point, fam. I was, discussing, like, just imagine it was flipped and like a Russian did that.
Yeah.
Like, what would happen? How would the world react? This is normal. It's normal, I guess, to call for Vladimir Putin to be assassinated. I mean, you don't have to like Vladimir Putin. Nobody's asking you to, but the fact that a U.S. senator can just say this outright, and it's not the first time, and the West is like, yeah, you're right. We should just eliminate him. I mean, and of course, the U.S. is notorious for eliminating anybody they want. It's very interesting, right? And of course, we go back to Castro surviving CIA attempts at his life. So,
yeah, he did it a day after, fam. That's so weird. Well, let's hold on a second here. Let's examine this. Let's examine this guy really quick. 1 second, fam. If somebody's copying fam, we got to know who he is. Got to make sure he's okay. So this is the same thing. Imagine if a Russian politician went on Russian media TV, said the war wins when we give it to President, the collective West. It's almost the same exact tweet, and that was on a day later, okay? December 26th. Now, who is this guy, fam?
I have no idea, fam. But
I don't know if that's
imitation is
Christian
sincere.
Amos. He's a socialist for the NHS, climate protection, renewable energy, free Assange, and against wars, poverty, inequality, racism, factory farming, and animal experimentation. So the guy's
I'm not
like
against that.
Guy.
Yeah, just next time, just say it's not you. But other than that, if you're on the right side, if you're, whatever, if you're on the side fighting the, the empire, you can copy my tweets all you want.
Why are you stealing my homegirl shit?
You can copy my tweets all you want. So, fam, we are running out of time. Did you want to talk a little bit about the COVID stuff?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, let's do that.
Hit the like button, hit the share button, fam. This is your analysis right over here.
Our analysis.
Come on. Here we go.
So what's going on over here, fam? Your take on the COVID stuff. Have you gotten into it? Because if not, then we can save it for...
Hold on. Let me use I guess we can save it. I have to blow my nose. I'm getting a little snuffly.
All right. So just as a precursor, we'll talk about this further because I have to go to work.
Yeah, tomorrow I will do a special show on the election stuff, on the Kerry Lake stuff. I'm going to have Addy Ads on with me, and I'll have somebody else on. A couple people I've reached out to, and we'll talk a little bit about what's going on too.
Maybe do some of the COVID stuff too, or we can save it for Wednesday. But just right off the bat, fam, if you just go to the first tweet, I'm just going to read a couple of things.
Panel with Don DeBar, Mel K, and Angela McArdle, who's a Libertarian chair. So that's this Wednesday. That's coming up.
Yeah, so let's just go through it real quick. This is what they've said so far. I don't think they've said much, to be fair. So it says, hold on. The Twitter files how Twitter rigged the COVID debate. No shit, guys. By censoring info that was true, but inconvenient to U.S. government policy, by discrediting doctors and other experts who disagreed, by suppressing ordinary users, including some sharing the CDC's own data. Guys, I'm going to pull my hair out. Almost 3 years too late. Almost 3 years too late. I'm glad, okay. Literally, accounts censored, taken down, people losing their jobs, people lose their credibility. And you still have morons out there telling people to get vaccinated and get boosted. I mean, according to the CDC, the vaccines are safe and effective. I have to say that on YouTube. But clearly, guys, the fringe was right, whether left or right or independent, whatever the hell, those of us were right. And of course, it was a very lonely place. Pasta and I lost friendships over this. I mean, we literally were some of the only people on the left talking about this. We talked about the anti-malaria drug really early on in 2020. We talked about it, horsey warmer. Ken Klippenstein went after me for that, literally. Who was right, motherfuckers? Who's been right about literally every issue that we've talked about, from the January 6th, from Russiagate to elections to COVID to Russia, Ukraine? Start paying attention to the people that get it right before you're allowed.
Fam, I don't know what you're talking about. You were wrong on all those things. First of all, the jab is safe and effective. Second of all, they have spent less time in the hospitals. Third of all, it's, it was definitely came out of bat soup in Wuhan. That is just a theory that it could have come out of a lab. Two, was the most fairest, securest election of all times. Joe Biden did really get 81 million votes, 10 million more than Barack Obama, and the Russians did try to tamper in our elections. So you were wrong on that. And also, you're wrong about Ukrainian Nazis because Zelensky's Jewish. That's not even possible. And you're wrong about that too. So you were wrong on everything. And what I'm trying to say is that, fam, is even though we were right on everything, they're still sticking to their bullshit. Like you said, there are people out there, and then you had to quickly go, oh, it's safe and effective, blah, blah, blah. But they're still saying take the jab. They're still saying that you need to have a jab when you want to go internationally travel. They're still getting together and saying they're going to make QR codes if you want to hop on a plane and go across the seas. So even if they are right, or even if we were right or they were wrong, they're still sticking to their rhetoric. They're still sticking to their solutions. They're still sticking to their ways. Even with all this information coming out, it's just going to be more divisive. What is really going to change? What's going to really change? Nothing, fam. Nothing.
And can we go to number 5 and 6? I just wanted to reiterate that at least they can't hide the fact that the Trump administration also played ball. We also talked about that. Operation Warp Speed. People wanted to make Trump the guy that was, this, fighter and hero against this whole narrative. No, he really bought into the narrative. It was only after that he was like trying to push for hydroxychloroquine and the anti-malaria drug. And here it is, internal files at Twitter that I viewed while on assignment for the FP, I think something press. Hold on, let me make sure what it's called, the outlet he's with, the Free Press, showed that both the Trump and Biden administrations directly pressed Twitter executives to moderate the platform's pandemic content according to their wishes. At the onset of the pandemic, according to meeting notes, the Trump administration was especially concerned about panic buying. They came looking for help from the tech companies to combat misinformation about runs on grocery stores, but there were runs on grocery stores. So that was going on. It wasn't just Twitter. The meetings with the Trump White House were also attended by Google, Facebook, Microsoft, and others. This has long been talked about, again, by people like Whitney Webb, who have talked about of the big tech surveillance state working with the government to pretty much manipulate the narrative, of course, and also figure out what you think, who you are, and how they can best target you. And again, this is nothing new, but I am glad this is coming out almost 3 years later and 3 years too late after people have lost so much and are, it's like, it's kind of like, I have to say that. And I'm sorry if it's like, it's not sour grapes, because it's like people were affected. People have died. People have lost their jobs. We need a little bit more than just, the government did this, slap on the wrist. I mean, that's what's been happening with the COVID, not just with this Twitter revelation, but with COVID in general. Oh, yes, now we can admit to talking about blood clots and about all these issues that are happening. And there is no accountability to that. There is no admission.
There's not even just no admission. They're still doubling down. I was in a chat. Yeah. We're in a chat, and I don't think you pay attention to this chat, but there are some people that are like progressives that I know and that we split up from, and they're still saying that we're not doing enough for COVID. They still have this Walker Bragman mentality of start locking it down, shutting it down, go get your vaccine. In fact, while we're playing this, I'm going to grab one little last thing to play before you get out of here, because I think it's so important, fam, that you check this out. Because they're not even doubling down, but they're taking it a step further, making sure that we are the enemy. We're the worst things out there. We are the information terrorists, and we need to be stopped. And I'm just going to play a video from a certain doctor. And this doctor was also on Rogan, and he got embarrassed by Joe Rogan. But take a look, fam. I don't want to spoil it real quick. Let me get it on up. Guys, do us a favor. Hit the like button. Hit the share button. Convo Couch is here. Fam's got to get out of here. We got to get going. You know where to help us out. I want to say thank you to all our Patreons and everybody else who's made this possible. Thank you so much. Fam, you're going to look.
Fam. Oh, God. What is this?
We have.
Oh, God. This guy. Oh, God. Fam, you're going to make me want a shot of tequila
Activism, which I actually call anti-science aggression, has now become a major killing force globally. During the COVID pandemic in the United States, 200,000 Americans needlessly lost their lives because they refused a COVID vaccine, even after vaccines became widely available. And now the anti-vaccine activism is expanding across the world, even into low and middle income countries. It's a killing force. Anti-science now kills more people than things like gun violence, global terrorism, nuclear proliferation, or cyber attacks. And now it's become a political movement. In the US, it's linked to far extremism on the far right, same in Germany. So this is a new face of anti-science aggression. And so we need political solutions to address this. We have to.
Oh, God. He reminds me of like some sort of villain from like a Marvel movie, you know, like, or even not even Marvel, maybe a scary movie like The Nice Doctor that's actually severely evil. He was just on Joe Rogan.
Yeah, he got eaten up by Joe Rogan too, as well. When Joe Rogan went to him and started talking about what about your diet and your food, and he's like, I'm a junk foodaholic, and and he's like, well, what about all this stuff? You know, you don't look healthy, right? Joe didn't say that. He doesn't look healthy. He talked about he's in the junk food Shake Shack, and but you need to still take your vaccines too. And Joe's like, well, you know, a lot of illnesses are linked to bad diet, and bad food, and you know, this guy is not a healthy guy, and no matter what, they're going to still circle around to, oh, okay, you still got to take your vaccines, and they're doubling down on it. They even said now anti-science aggression. You're an anti-science aggressionist, fam, because you refuse to take your jab.
No, and the worst part is it's like the science actually proves us right. And the literal, as the files did mention, like what we've been saying for a while, the literal data from reports, from medical reports, from data supports the fact that the vaccine did not stop the virus. In fact, the CDC director admitted to it. I mean, these are things that they've admitted to. And one of the other things that I just want to point out as we finish up here, that you know, they wanted to take down more accounts, they wanted to deplatform more people. Twitter suppressed views, many from doctors and scientific experts who were pushing this stuff, and that's the Twitter Files 14. There were serious problems with Twitter's process because they used AI and robots that basically were trained on this AI artificial system to go after these accounts, and it obviously didn't have nuance. And then it was very subjective with suspensions. And we know this from YouTube because we know YouTube does the same thing, right? YouTube does the same exact thing. You can't even get somebody to talk to you. So again, they talked about Martin Kulldorff, one of the epidemiologists at Harvard Medical School.
What number are you on?
Who talked about this. I believe we had him on the show. 20. So Dr. Martin Kulldorff, an epidemiologist.
We just lost Fiorella. She just got cut off. Anyways, guys, that's it for today. We got to get on out of here. Thank you so much for following us along. I want to make sure we're still up everywhere. We still up everywhere, guys? Making sure that we're live everywhere. We are still up. It's Fiorella. We lost her. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. She had to get on over to work anyway, so I just want to say thank you to Gregory Walker. Fam, I hear vegan shroom trail mix is a secret weapon of the CCP to MK Ultra, the brainwash, the use. Thank you, Gregory Walker, for all those who I just took shrooms and I didn't even know I was taking them. And I was like, why is my head tingling so much? That was the truth. That's what really did happen, guys. That's it. Thank you so much for following along today. We love you. We'll see you soon, guys. Come back, catch us. We'll do a special show tomorrow on the election stuff. We'll break down the Kerry Lake election. Join us tomorrow. I'll have some special guests in here, and we'll break it on down, guys. We love you. Thank you. We got to get on out of here. This is the Convo Couch. Fiorella, you want to say goodbye to everybody? I just told everybody you got to get to work anyways, but...
Yeah, but I was in the middle of something, and then it just kicked me off.
I know. So what do you want me to do? You want to go back to it?
Yeah. I mean, I just want to finish my thought before I get off. So I was saying there's no differentiation between what the left is. And I think that's something that you're not going to find in the Twitter files, because the Twitter files isn't going to show you any of that, right? And yeah, I mean, this is nothing new. The doctors were censored. We know this. Even if you posted, for example, the CDC's own data, you would still get taken down. And this was something that happened to you, Pasta. It happened to a lot of people. People were said that this was misleading, and you could post all this information and data looking at number 25. It doesn't matter. You were still going to be signaled to having COVID misinformation or misleading. Even if you were saying, hey, this tweet is misleading, they would label you misleading, that sort of thing. So again, this was used by the algorithm. This is stuff that we've been talking about. We knew, when Twitter was doing this. And again, it's not new. And I'm glad there's some vindication to this, and I even thought that they weren't even going to even mention any of it. But I mean, the fact that they're mentioning it, I think, is mostly because the right was the one that was censored via the COVID stuff. So, yeah.
But I think it's very interesting that you had that last one up, and you can see it, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't make a difference if it was true. Like, what Fan was talking about when it happened to me is the McCullough the four truths of COVID. And every single truth that he had, I used the WHO's website or the CDC's website to show the receipts, and they didn't care. They didn't care. Mm-hmm. Number one was a WHO. It was on the WHO website about a test in Wuhan, and pretty much said that asymptomatic did not spread the disease, did not spread the virus, did not spread whatever you want to call it, right? And they took that down. That was like one of the best threads I did. I had 4 different truths, and I had every single receipt. It didn't matter that it came from the CDC. It's just information that they didn't want out there, and they censored people for that. And, last I checked, last I looked in the mirror, it was on the left side of that mirror, not the right.
And I just want to say in closing, the information that's being revealed is saying these accounts were censored for election stuff. These accounts, or the Hunter Biden laptop scandal, and a few, assertions of Russian interference in elections. These accounts are censored for COVID stuff, but it's not saying these things were real. Okay. And I think that's kind of like, if you were going to give direct source material, and then allow people to decide, oh my God, this is real, that'd be one thing. But if you're kind of sort of putting your own spin on it, and you're releasing screenshots and stuff, and you're not using that to say, actually, there are facts that say Ukraine has Nazi factions, that Ukraine is really under the control of the West, the collective West, NATO, that, the COVID tweets labeled misinformation were actually valid and have support. I feel like this isn't going far enough in those issues, because it can't, in a way, because it's coming from the top down, like I said. No, in this whole COVID files, even when they mentioned the right being censored during the election, even when they mention Russia, Ukraine, even when they mention COVID, they're not asserting that these people were right. They're asserting, oh, well, they were censored because they said a different narrative.
And it's
they were censored, right? Because we were right.
It's interesting here too, as well. It says this was labeled, this particular tweet by this individual was labeled misleading was a reply to a tweet that contained actual misinformation. COVID has never been the leading cause of death from disease in children, yet that tweet remains on the platform without a misleading label. So here is somebody calling out a misleading tweet, and they get labeled as misleading when they have the receipts, and it's right there. So it just shows you clearly that they were playing the pro-COVID narrative team, no matter what Twitter is. And, I mean, this is some information right now that is really should be devastating as can be. And it really goes to our free speech, showing that we don't have it. We have propaganda, we have controlled speech, and it's quite fucked up, fam. Anything else?
Yeah, no, just that it's not alleging that the information was right. The Twitter files isn't telling you, by the way, the vaccines aren't safe and effective. It's not telling you that they lied about all the stuff. It's just simply saying people were censored for saying that. So I think that's why people are still going to continue lying about the COVID stuff. Oh, people were censored. They're going to justify it because even though they're not saying that the people were right, they're not saying they actually had medical information and data to show that they were right about COVID. Same with the elections and same with Russia, Ukraine. So it's just showing you, okay, these people were censored, but you don't get to talk about the fact that they were censored and they were right. And that's why they were censored. So I just want to point that out as in closing.
Just so you know, this is Open Verus. We'll get you to the Verus system. They post up the numbers. Since through December, this vaccine has had, according to Verus, and this is their numbers. Let's see if this works. YouTube is not the same as Twitter, but it says 33,000 deaths, 186,000 hospitalizations. You got 16,000 cases plus of Bell's palsy, anaphylaxis. You got over 10,000 doctor office visits, over 200. Almost 250,000, and a lot of people, 141,000 in urgent care. You got almost 16,000 heart attacks, 36,000 people with myocarditis, 62,000 almost permanently disabled. You got almost 5,000 miscarriages. So it's all there. So you make the decision if you want. But that's the thing that just drives me crazy, fam, is that people are still doubling down on this stuff. People are still. We saw the video from the doctor there. The number one problem is misinformation. People like you who are saying, don't go do this, go think for yourself. Make a decision for yourself. But he's going to sit there and chastise people for thinking differently than him, right? I mean, it's a joke at this point. So
yeah, and they can do that because, again, the information isn't being pointed out as being truthful. It's just being pointed out as being censored. Exactly. So the next step has to happen. Right. It wasn't censored just because. It was censored because it undermines their narrative of what they were trying to push. And you have to ask why this is being revealed, and why exactly are we only allowed to see only certain aspects of it, not like full document source material directly, like a WikiLeaks, and why it's coming from the top down. It's coming from Elon and Twitter, rather than people saying, you got to show this, or we're going to force you to show this, or it coming from a whistleblower. You have to be doubtful of that still in the back of your mind, because it's not, happening through the means of people forcing the information out. So
this is a thank you, Fun Facts, for saying bless you, pasta. This is from Mark 2112 Zelensky. Just doing the laundry, fam. Just doing the laundry, fam. That's
yes.
it. You know what I'm saying? So that's that. We do have a Super Ray. I think we already said thank you to Greg, so we're good like that. Fam, get on out of here. You'll be on tonight. Anything special going on that we should know about?
No, we'll probably talk more about this latest COVID stuff on the Twitter files, and more Russia, Ukraine stuff, and China, Russia stuff. So yeah, I'll post a link this time. I didn't last night. I was so tired. I didn't even have time to post much, but I will post a link.
I got a lot of stuff to say about the trial that I spent a lot of time looking into, guys. Hours and hours. I didn't even get through all of it, but I watched most of it. So I'm going to do that tomorrow. Like I said, I'll have Addy ads on unless he cancels because he's got something going on. maybe some other special guests. I'm going to reach out to some people to talk about it. Some important things did take place, and it's just so crazy because it's stuff we've been talking about for quite some time. While I got you all here, fam, really quickly, I just wanted to play, if I can bring up for me really quickly. Let me grab it really quick. Something I put out a couple days ago on this whole situation. It's something that we've been talking about for quite some time on the Convo Couch. Fam, I really wanted to talk about this stuff with you because I wanted to get your opinions and show you stuff that was said in that trial, because it was just like some crazy great shit that was there. And you would have been laughing because it's just stuff we've been saying for a while. Let me grab this one tweet, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so sorry. I'm ranting and raving over here. And then they had the Netanyahu video, fam. I don't know if you heard about seen the Netanyahu video. Holy shit. Netanyahu.
What Netanyahu video?
Oh my God, fam. You didn't see what he did? Ugh.
No, I didn't see what he did, but I know he's gonna. I know that the annexation of the West Bank is gonna be top priority for him. And there are some idiots that get a lot of accolades that were saying they were glad that Bibi won because he's gonna be more against the globalist. No, the guy's ready to annex the West Bank, and it's bad news. Bad news. Bad news.
Okay, so this is what's going on really quickly. We're going to do this real quick, fam. So let me read this here so everybody can see this. It says, now watch this. And what have we been saying here for a while? Christina Bob, you have a whistleblower from Runbeck, the ballot company that said approximately 300,000 ballots were illegally inserted into the tally, not coming from drop boxes, not coming from polling locations, just being brought in by employees. Funny. Who have we been talking about for a while, fam? Haven't we been saying, what do you got to check? The ballot companies.
You've got an expert witness saying that an expert who has certified these machines for the last 9 years, saying that they're lawful to use and that they're in good working condition, saying that the error that occurred on election day, because we saw how many Republicans were disenfranchised because over half the machines broke on election day, that error was intentional. You have a whistleblower from Runback, the ballot company, that says approximately 300,000 ballots were illegally inserted into the tally, not coming from drop boxes, not coming from polling locations, but just being brought in by employees, not within the lawful chain of custody. I mean, there's so much evidence in this case. I don't see how a court can dismiss it.
So, fam, that was just last week. They had this whistleblower. Oh, my God, the ballot. And, fam, I want to show you what I said about 2 months ago, right? Here, I got this right here. Check this out. This is what I said 2 months ago, guys. I think I even named the company that you should be looking for. Just take a look really quickly. The last thing I want to talk about, because it hasn't been talked about much today. I heard one time a company named Runbeck was mentioned, right? Nobody knows who Runbeck is? Okay. We also have to, that's one thing that was void of 2,000 Mules. They didn't look at who makes your ballots. They didn't look at the contracts. And if you look at these contracts, they'll really make you scared. What they can do. What's the chain of custody when they mail out a ballot and that person's dead? Where does it go? Where does it get back to? Well, basically, the bottom line is whoever hires that contract, that's who that contractor works for. In the case of California, it was Alex Padilla many years ago. He signed the contract. Hey, we don't need to get ballots made out of bamboo from China when we got the contractor right down the street. So look into who is making your ballots. Thank you, guys. Want to also point out, too, is really quickly, this last part right over here, my article that was written over a half a year ago. I said the next part of the movie, which was Missed the Mark, and this is going about 2,000 Mules, the discovery of where the ballots come from. Dinesh covers most but not all bases. He exposes ballot harvesters' behavior of exploiting poor and the elders for their ballots, but he forgot to look in the most important place. The contractors hired to make the ballots. No one has the smoking footage of contractors giving ballots to nefarious characters. but no one is looking at these contracts, explaining the duties and responsibility of these companies. The public is not given procedures and chain of custody of ballots from these contractors who sign lucrative deals, mostly with secretaries of state. What's to stop a friendly contractor, fam, from handing over ballots to the people who awarded them these contracts? And furthermore, why haven't their responsibilities been made transparent to the public? I have a lot of questions for these contractors. What happens when a mail-out ballot, when you mail out a ballot and that person no longer lives at that address? Does it get returned to you, or does it get sent back somewhere else? You know what I'm saying, fam? I've asked all these questions before. This is something that the Convo Couch has talked about for quite some time, and it happened to be, oh my God, it's the smoking gun they were looking for in Arizona. This is how they mess up an election, fam. We've been talking about it for quite some time, and it's kind of crazy that it came to fruition in Arizona this weekend.
Yeah. I mean,
how long have we been talking about it?
I mean, that's why I don't think this is gonna do anything.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully it will inform. It's not going to bring us justice, but hopefully it will inform and educate the public more. Because one last note, fam, and this is the last thing I'm going to leave you guys with the audience. We'll talk about this more tomorrow. Out of 2.4 million eligible voters in Maricopa County, which is the largest county in Arizona by far, it's the majority of the people there. They're in Maricopa County. 1.9 million mail-out ballots went out 3 weeks before the election, fam. That's 85% of, almost 87%, I believe it is, around there. It's 80+% of eligible voters got a mail-in ballot 3 weeks early, fam. Can you have an election that is fair if you have that?
Not according to the rest of the world.
Yeah, and literally 1.2 million votes in Maricopa. Well, they mailed out 1.9 million ballots, right? You know, and 1.2 million votes. A lot of those, like 300,000 of, I believe, came from day of voting total. So you got 1 million outstanding ballots that were mailed out that are just floating around there that nobody's asking where they're at. They're just out there. And if you have an extra week and a half of counting, you can just count until you get the results you want. And that's what's going on out there. That's the math that catches anybody. I mean, literally, fam, Stephen Richter, who is the Maricopa County, I believe he's called what's his title? Recorder. After his first 10 minutes of testimony, fam, you would have said time out. You would have brought everybody over. He's like, okay, we're not going to proceed with this case anymore because what he just told you right there is so unfair. You'll never have a fair election. Because we're not against mail-in ballots because we think it's stopping more people from voting. We understand that there can never be a proper chain of custody. The only way close you get to a proper chain of custody if you have certified mail, and it has to be less than at least 10%. Less than 5% of the votes have to come in from mail-in. Mail-ins are for should be the small, minute portion. Military personnel, people overseas, the elderly that can't even get out and they're bedridden. And I even have questions about that, to make it fair for them. But when you got 80%, when you have 75% of your total ballots, 3/4 of your ballots are mail-in ballots that are out there, there's no chain of custody, you're never going to have fair results. You're going to have results you can trust on, and that's what's going on in our elections.
Yeah, and there's a reason it's that way, by the way. So, guys, I got to get going. I don't have much time, but thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you back. Well, you have a panel Wednesday,
I got a
correct?
panel on Wednesday, and I'm trying to line up a panel for you on Friday so that I can take off. And you can take off Wednesday if you want, but it's going to be a panel. It's going to be Don DeBar, Mel K, and Angela McCardle. Don DeBar, you know him. He's a socialist comrade, been to Cuba. The last time he had a cigarette fan was like 5 years ago in Havana. So he's a comrade. He'll be on. Mel K is a conservative, kind of America first, but independent thinker, knows all about the NED. And then Angela McCardle is that libertarian. So it's a nice mixture of different people across the board. We're going to be talking about foreign policy and how the whole anti-communist movement, and I want to talk more about the Brazil stuff too with them as well. So we're going to have a great time, and that's that. So we'll see you soon. I'll be back tomorrow, special election show. Fam, that's it. Tell everybody to say we're saying goodbye.
Bye, guys.